Hi, today I'm going to be showing you how I created this ocean sunset using coloured pencils. If you're keen to try out this tutorial, I have the line art plus a 1-hour video available over on my Patreon channel, and the link is in the description below if you're keen. I start off by doing a light layer of ultramarine, and I'm just keeping the pressure quite light when I do this. I am going back and forth quite a lot with this colour as well as a couple of other colours, just to get enough pigment on the page before I try to blend. And the other colours I used was middle phthalo blue, cobalt blue greenish, and sky blue. And when you saw me just then with the paintbrush, I was blending it out using an odorless solvent. For the clouds, I haven't gone over them with some of those darker blues, and now I'm going over them with the rose carmine, and this just gives it the faint pink tinge that the clouds get from the sunset. I'm just going over clouds with the white Polychromos pencil now, just adding a bit of definition to them. I'm doing small circles with the pencil, and I'm pressing a little bit harder than I usually do. And then I went over with a bit more blue and blended it out. Now this section I'm just finishing off the last corner of the sky. I couldn't fit the whole scene on the camera, so I'm just doing this last little bit, which is just a repeat of what I did for the rest. Annoyingly, my camera is having issues focusing on the page. It keeps losing its focus, which makes it blur slightly, so I'm sorry about that. Hopefully it sorts itself out in a moment. Now it's blending it out and then going over now with the white luminance pencil, which is a bit more opaque than the white Polychromos. Now to the next layer of the sky, and just doing the same with the ultramarine and the middle phthalo blue, a bit of the cobalt blue greenish and sky blue, and I'm going with sky blue over the cloud layer. I did find with these clouds, even though that was how they kind of looked in the photo that I was working from, when I did it as this piece, that line of cloud across there didn't look quite so good. So I kind of ended up trying to break it up a little bit and made the clouds go more diagonally down instead of horizontal, even though that's what it actually did look like in the reference photo I was working from. And it just goes to show that even though that's what it might have been in the reference photo, you don't actually have to follow the reference photo completely. If you want to change it up a bit like what I have, you can do that. You just do what makes your artwork look good. That's what being an artist is. You got that artistic license. Using the white luminance to add a bit more of those clouds in. And for this one, I'm not using the white titanium white powder, which I have used in some of my other art pieces. So this is just using the white luminance pencil to get those white highlights for the clouds. I'm just doing that last little bit of sky there. In the next section, it gets a lot more colourful and brighter. This is the lowest part of the blue sky before it gets to the bright sunset. Remember to keep your layers light. Don't press too hard. If you press too hard, you'll flatten the tooth of the paper and you won't be able to get many additional layers on after that. I do always try and keep my layers as light as possible, and if you need more pigment on the page, you go over with an additional layer rather than pushing harder to start with. And when blending, make sure to wipe the excess solvent off of your brush. You don't want to have too much on your brush because it'll soak into the paper too much, and you do need to wait for it to dry before going over it with the pencil again, otherwise that can damage the tooth of the paper as well. So for this cloud, I'll start adding in a bit more of that colour. I've got light aubergine, which is a luminance pencil. Added in a little bit of dark chrome yellow, and touch of some other colours in there as well, just to start adding in those the brighter colours into those clouds. And later on, I come back and add a little bit more into some of the clouds further up as well. And once I've done the rest of the picture, know I can add some extra colour in. So now I've got the dark chrome yellow and just adding that into those clouds there and defining the edges a bit more with the luminance white. Now for the brighter section. So I've got dark chrome yellow and cream, and I've been using scarlet red as well to get in a little bit of that red colour in there. And that light aubergine I'm using makes really good shadows in this piece. I end up using it all over the place. That is actually a new luminance pencil for me. This is the first picture I've used it in. I'm absolutely loving it. It works so well for shadows. With sunsets, you do need to pay attention to how the clouds are going in your reference photo. As you can see for this one, it's got a lot of horizontal clouds. And so if I'm trying to get that effect of the horizontal lines, I do want to do all my pencil strokes as horizontal as possible, rather than going in all sorts of directions. And that'll make them look a lot better. And just widen that up a little bit with the white luminance pencil. And then onto the rest of the sunset sky. And there's that light aubergine colour. It's awesome. And also a lot of the rose carmine worked really well in this piece. And darkening it up a little bit more. The second time you blend with solvent, you don't need to use as much on the brush either. This particular brush I'm using is Taklon Filbert size 8, and it holds a lot of solvent on it, so it's quite easy to put way too much on the page, I find. I have to get rid of the excess off of it quite a lot. And now onto the silhouette of the boat, and just sort of blocking in the colours and the black. With this, not too worried if there is some pencil marks shown, because that will give the effect of the texture of the sails a bit, the lines within the sails. And then using a bit of white to further, so you can see the definition of the sail, so it's not a complete black silhouette. Now onto the water. Pay attention to where the reflection is and where the dark shadows are for each of those waves. You want them to sort of float across the whole page, so you want to match them up on each side of the reflection, the darker spot and the lighter spot. And the dark part of the wave is the side of the wave that is closest to the viewer. So blending that out, and you'll notice there's a little watermark down at the bottom from the page. It does take a little bit of extra work to make sure that's not seen on the finished product, but it can be used. I tend to use those pages, those edges with the watermark, even though it takes a little bit more effort to hide the watermark. And just sometimes the pigment sticks in the letters. It's a bit annoying, but it's workable. So putting in the reflection of the boat and the sun. And again, keeping your pencil marks horizontal to get the effect of the waves. And that means that if your pencil marks end up showing, you don't have to worry, because it'll just add to the texture of the waves that you're trying to, the effect that you're trying to get anyway. Adding in the blues to darken up those waves which are closest, or the side of the wave that is closest to you, which has the shadow from the sun, and then blending it out. Now there's a bit of pigment on that brush when I start blending, which is why it's a bit dark in that first section where I blended near the sun. So then I had to go over it with the white pencil to lighten that up. And it's a good point to, when you are going onto a light area like that, to make sure that your brush doesn't have pigment in it from the last time you blended. And you can clean it using the odorless solvent, but then wipe it on a paper towel to make sure there's no pigment left on that brush. Otherwise, it does darken up like it did there. And it's just a matter at this point to keep layering and keep blending it until you get the effect that you want. I've zoomed out a bit so you can see how I'm working across the whole piece now rather than in the sections. And at this point, I'm not really paying attention to the reference photo. I'm looking at my artwork and seeing what it needs, what additional color layers that it needs to make it look better. And for this, I decided that the clouds at the top needed more color on it rather than what was in the reference photo. Now, I found that the sky with this probably needed an extra layer of color, which is why it still doesn't look quite right. I was in a bit of a rush because this was a Mother's Day present and I had to get it sent. So that's why I didn't go back and add a couple more layers to the sky. So if you were doing this, I would definitely just add those extra layers of blue and blend it, and that would have looked a lot smoother if I'd done that. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.